Welcome to How to Live Slow, the podcast where we discuss slow living for the modern woman and help you design an intentionally slower family life. I'm Rachelle Glendon, your personal slow living coach and host of this podcast. I know all about busy, but I love living slow. Enjoy the show. Well, hello and welcome to episode 90 of How to Live Slow. I'm Rachelle, I'm the host and I'm a slow living coach. I work with mums to help you learn how to slow down, enjoy your family life, and find time to do the things that really matter to you. Today's episode is all about FOMO, how to get over it, how to get over the fear of causing it, and a different way of thinking about FOMO so that you can really live the life that you really truly want. And I've got an amazing little worksheet for you, or journaling prompts PDF for you to grab as well to go with the show, which you can get in the show notes. I'll leave a link there for you can just download. That's like some journaling ideas just to get you thinking. So let's talk about FOMO. So FOMO is the fear of missing out, and it was first coined, I guess you would say, by this guy, Patrick McGinnis. It's now officially in the dictionary, which is kind of cool. But FOMO is the fear of missing out, is like that. It's based in our primal need to be accepted and to feel safe and be worthy. It's like almost like a fear of not being enough. And, social media, particularly our modern world, has made it way worse. I'm sure you've experienced it or felt it or seen other people feel it, or almost been witness to other people, sharing things on social media. And it almost, you can sort of sense if they're hoping to cause a bit of FOMO. Maybe sometimes influencers use this idea of FOMO to get us to feel like we need, get us spending our dollars on things. I feel like since the pandemic, things have really changed with regards to FOMO. I feel like during all of the lockdowns, we stopped getting FOMO because nobody was doing anything. Nobody was sharing anything. And now I feel like instead of the fear of missing out, it's almost the fear of causing FOMO that's the bigger thing. Like, I feel like it's harder and harder to come across almost like good news and nice things that people are doing. And I'm going to use the example of like when I went to the UK. If you have been following along for a while, you'll know that back in March, when the borders and Australia opened up the borders again, I went on a solo trip. I left my husband and two boys behind and went to the UK to visit my best friend and do a coaching experience with my coach, Joe Bendel, and a few other things for a couple of weeks. And it was one of the best things I've ever done for myself, particularly since having the kids. It was a really great reset for me. But it was interesting to observe just when I shared that I was going to the UK, and which I was very excited about, but the reactions of people were almost like, is everything okay? We're just so not used to hearing people share things, good news and fun, exciting things that people are doing, that it's almost like, and I did feel a sense like, oh, should I not put it on social media? Like, I don't want to things are tough for a lot of people. Like, everybody has had their ups and downs over the pandemic. And I do feel a bit guilty sharing fun things, but equally, like, I think that is not healthy or good either. We want to be sharing our good news. Like, that's what I think is so good about social media, and why so many of us are feeling a little bit like, I guess, disenfranchised, disenchanted, I don't know, with social media, because like a lot of it is not great. A lot of the news and things is just not cool. We don't, it just feels like, particularly media I know, traditional media and news use social media now, and I feel like particularly they're very doom and gloom. Maybe that's just me, but I just love actually seeing when people do share things that are great. And that was also, once people got over the reaction of like, oh, is everything okay? Why are you going to the UK? Someone's sick? Do you have family over there? Are they okay? Like, that sort of reaction. But when I actually went and shared the things that, the things I was doing, people were like, that was some of my most popular content, like my photos and videos from while I was away or during that trip, because it was something different, right? And I guess people like to live vicariously in a way. But I still have the funny relationship with FOMO, and I think it's really important that we just live our lives and we stay in our own lanes. And there's a difference between FOMO that kind of makes you feel bad about yourself and FOMO that makes you go, hey, I'm going to do something cool for me too. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to do the exact same thing. And we'll talk about that in a second. But if you see someone doing something that makes you go, oh, yes, there's this thing that I've been wanting to do, and that's given me the inspiration to just do it, that is great. That is the power and benefit of a feeling of FOMO. But when you just feel like your life's not good enough or that you're not achieving the things you want to achieve, that's just not good, because FOMO can really influence your conscious and unconscious decisions and how, around how you spend your time and your money, which obviously then keeps you busy, keeps you on a hamster wheel. It may mean that you overcommit your time, you may get into debt, you may have increased stress levels. You continually comparing may affect your relationships, particularly if you're comparing what you think you're seeing on social media, like people's families or couples or whatever, versus what's going on in your home, and that may not match or meet that kind of that external expectation of what a relationship looks like. That can really affect things as well. It can just affect your general sense of contentment with your life, and I think that is the negative side to FOMO. But I think that you can really just have a look at, FOMO, and it's just basically telling you, from a positive point of view, that maybe you aren't really clear on your priorities. Maybe you have some inner work to do. You might have some unrealized dreams that you want to go after, or it might just be like niggling little changes that it's time for you to make. Like, it might just be circling you around the status quo or the comfortable bubble that you're in, and it might just be pushing you towards the edges of that comfortable bubble to sort of step outside of your comfort zone and make some changes that are most likely overdue. I think we've all been stuck in pandemic burnout, like just that kind of apathy of like, okay, this is life now. And I think that, we might have forgotten to take some action to get started again. It's interesting because I was at a women's conference on the weekend and people were saying, oh, I just love slow living. I really, secretly I enjoyed the lockdowns that we did because it meant that I didn't have to worry about rushing here or there. And I 100% agree. I totally think that the lockdowns really showed everybody what slow living is in one way, but also equally thinking about it, that was not slow living in the sense of nervous system safety, because I think we were all kind of stuck at home. We couldn't go anywhere and do anything. So yeah, sure. But were we really rested because our nervous systems were so heightened and just waiting for the next round of bad news, checking the case numbers, checking the ratios, all of that stuff? That's not slow living in a sense, because that's almost like mimicked depression in a way, because you're not... it's like you can't get out of bed, but you can't rest either, that sort of sense. Whereas slow living is like doing the things that you really want to do, not taking up more resources than you need to take, not having to work more because you don't, you're not on that hamster wheel of earning, significant, like consistently more and more and more to have more and more and more. You're actually really content with where you are. You're content with your life, and you really prioritize rest and prioritize cyclical living and, all of that sort of thing. So some really practical tips that you can, sort of think about or try to kind of set yourself up for a FOMO-free life. The first thing I would say is to curate your social media feed. So just unfollow anyone that doesn't make you feel good. You can, and then, you can leave groups or you can leave chat boxes or whatever it is, but just really curate and follow accounts that really inspire you. And you know what? Sometimes an account will inspire you and then suddenly it just makes you feel bad because either you've realized that particular kind of pursuit is no longer of interest or is no longer possible, or that you aren't going to take the action required to get to that kind of whatever that lifestyle is representing. And that's okay. You're allowed to change your mind. But then equally, it's like recognizing those FOMO triggers. Take some time to understand why you're being triggered. Like it's a really, anytime you get triggered or you feel a feeling, it's just information. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to act on it. You can just like observe yourself, observe your own thoughts and your own feelings and ask, what's being reflected to me here? Yeah, what's going on? And does it matter? Do I need to do something about this, or how can I rationalize this? Like, what information am I getting here? I think as well, it's really a nice reminder to remember to not engage in gossip, because it ends up activating your noticing system to negativity. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of having a good old bitch session with your friends about your husband or your partner, and then, the next couple of days, all you do is notice all the annoying things that they do that you didn't notice before, because we've got this system in our brain, the reticular activating system, that just notices more of what we're thinking about. And so if you keep your mind kind of focused on all the great things they're doing and talk about that and acknowledge that, that's why gratitude is such a powerful thing. Noticing all the great things going on in your life keeps you noticing them and keeps you, it stops you from being so focused on the bad things. Or, you know what I mean? It's not saying, bypass the bad things. It's just saying, well, don't actively look for them. The next thing I think is it's really important to focus on inclusivity. So help everyone you encounter to feel included and valuable and considered, and tell them why you're proud of what they've experienced or achieved. So in other words, don't be jealous. So if someone's done something amazing, tell them that is so good. There's nothing better than being really honestly happy for people when things go their way. It's a life-changing way to see the world. And yeah, I think, and to be happy for people is just, it's just important, I think, because, we want people to be happy for us and the good things that are going on in our lives. Why not give the gift of being really happy for someone when something amazing happens? There is absolutely nothing wrong with going over the top with your enthusiasm for what someone else has achieved. Make a fuss of them during social catch-ups and things like that. And equally, acknowledge the things that you've done. Know your worth. Really deeply understand that you are a valuable human being as well, deserving of just as much praise and, attention and love. If you continually seek external validation, it will never be enough unless you have an underlying understanding that who you are is valuable and you are worthy. Some really great, shifts there. So if FOMO might be telling you something, or you've been feeling FOMO, or you've been feeling afraid of causing FOMO, I've got a worksheet. I guess it's called a worksheet. I don't really know. It's a PDF and it's just some journaling prompts that's attached. Now, I will quickly read them to you, but if they sound good to you and you want to download that, you can just click the link there. There's no email needed. You just click it and download it. It's in the show notes on this podcast. And I trust that if this is helpful to you, that you will come across it and subscribe to our email list. I send out an email once a week with just some really great, call it slow notes, and it's just got some really great slow tips or thoughts or things that I'm going through or experiencing, that I share, all about slow living. And that can be slow food, slow travel, slow parenting, slow business, even diving. You've definitely heard me talking about the living seasonally and tuning into our natural seasons and, our inner seasons as well. The slow life really can be really macro, like just enjoying your everyday ordinary life. But there is a whole movement out there of slow living that really encompasses, there are cities embracing the slow movement. They're called slow cities, funnily enough. If you really are interested in learning more about all of that sort of stuff as well, definitely come across and subscribe to my email list. And there's some free goodies and things coming out as well. And usually whenever I've got coaching places available, that's the people on my list are the first ones to find out about that. So I trust that if you do enjoy the PDF that I've attached, that you will then decide that you'd like to be in my community for a longer period of time, and I will definitely welcome you with open arms. I would love that. So here we go. It's called Questions to Ponder on FOMO Worksheet. These questions are designed to get you thinking and develop self-awareness on the effects of FOMO on your daily life. Remember, if you're feeling FOMO, it's probably a signal that you just need to get clearer on your priorities, do some inner work, or take some action on a goal or a change you've been wanting to make. Think about what triggers FOMO in you the most and then consider these questions. It might be useful to scroll social media to find an example to use. Why do you think you are triggered by FOMO? Are you missing out on something you actually want, or does the thing represent something you can't or won't do? What do you make the FOMO mean about your own life? Do you feel too boring, too ordinary, or is there something else? Think about a time you've shared something great on social media. What did you hope to gain out of that share? Was it validation, attention, acceptance, or something else? Maybe you were just sharing for information or to be, some other way, creative. Sometimes it's a creative outlet, that's fine. But this question is useful because it not only highlights what you might need to support yourself with, but I also want you to know this. When others share on social media, they are seeking the same things as you. What changes might you be prompted to make through your experience of FOMO? Are you willing to make those changes? It's more than okay to not be willing. It's also more than okay to miss out. That's why it's so important to know your priorities, which are the reasons why you're missing out. If you're struggling with figuring out your priorities, what you're not willing to do is a good way to narrow this down. What in your life are you grateful for? Set the intention to use your noticing system to find small ways that you are supported in life. Imagine you live a FOMO-free life. What does it look like? So those are the questions in the worksheet. Yeah, like I said, if you want to grab them, definitely download them. Something that I do want to speak about just before I say goodbye, because it's just popped into my head. Now, if you're like me, you are an avid learner and an avid reader and an avid experiencer. I feel sometimes I get a little bit upset or down because I think I could spend literally all day, every day reading all the books I want to read, and I would not even make a dent in all of the books that are on my wish list. And it just makes me feel like life is so short because I think I average maybe 2 books a month. So that's 24 books a year, maybe, say. And I'm 36 now. So even if I did that for the rest of my life, I know I've got like hundreds and hundreds of books that I've seen, and that every time I go to a bookshop, I can walk away with 3 or 4 books. Like I've probably got enough books in my house right now that I could read them all once and I wouldn't still finish them all. Do you know, like it just really upsets me. And that's just the books. Then there's all the podcasts I want to listen to, and there's all the websites I want to read, and then there's all the TV shows that I want to watch. Like I don't really watch a lot of TV, but there are so many series that I just never get a chance to watch. Movies, and that's just that part. Then there's like traveling, like every time I sit down to think, all right, well, where can we go next? There are more places that I'm not going to get to see, more places that I'm not going to get to experience or get to know. And every time I go somewhere, I think to myself, is this the only time I'm ever going to come to this exact spot? And I can get a little bit overwhelmed and upset about it. And I know that sounds really silly, but that is honestly how I feel. And I think the more work I do on slowing down and being in a place and being where I am now, being present with the life that I have, the more comfort I find in the fact that if I don't experience each moment that I'm in fully and stop wishing that it was different or better or more or, whatever, something else, or moving on to the next moment even, the more I sit in that presence, the less FOMO I feel. And so I've had to do a lot of work on feeling safe in the present moment, but also work on my belief that there's nothing more that I could do to make the present moment better than what it is. And that is the core of healing FOMO, I really believe. So with that, I could add, I can keep talking on this topic all the time. I think it's a really interesting sort of human behavior thing, like a psychological dynamic type of thing. So I could continue on and keep going and explore it in so many different ways. But I'll leave it there, and I would really love to know your thoughts on this topic. I will, enjoy, and make sure you do grab that PDF that I spoke about and send me a DM on Instagram and let's chat about this topic, because I think I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Apart from that, I hope this episode finds you really well, and take care until next time. Bye. That's it for another episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you'd like to connect further, the show notes from today's episode, including all the social links and free resources, are over on my website, howtoliveslow.com/podcast. Have a beautiful week ahead, and I'll speak with you again soon.